Drug abuse is a prevalent problem in our society. Whether we know it or not, drug use has always been a part of the dark underbelly of our nation, and yet, why hasn't it stopped? The focus of our research in this documentary is to explore drug abuse, specifically in the city of Baltimore, to explore the possible causes of this issue as well as its effects. In order to minimize bias, we will look at all research as objectively as we can. As outsiders of the city of Baltimore and the issues of drug abuse, we may tend to look at the issue in terms of how we are accustomed to living, and not focusing on the issue centralized in Baltimore, along with its unique environmental factors. The purpose of this research is to offer an in-depth look at drug abuse in Baltimore, and along the way, perhaps even offer a solution.
Well, they are taking on the heroin dealers one neighborhood at a time in Baltimore.
And it seems to be working. This time, police targeted a hot spot in West Baltimore and made more than 24 arrests. ABC 2 News' Jeff Hager has more now on that big bus. Jeff?
Well, this latest series of arrests follows 3 dozen last month as police try to stem the flow of cheap heroin hitting the streets. It's the economic hub of West Baltimore, and people come to Mondawmin for shops, restaurants, and public transit. But just a few blocks away, they hit the side streets to find heroin. Residents like Del Alston have learned how to look the other way.
You know what it is, but it's none of my business. You know, if someone comes, I know we're gonna come again. You just mind your business around here. Because if you don't, you're gonna be one of the ones that's gonna get hurt. It is what it is.
But not anymore. A grand jury has now returned indictments against 27 people in connection with 3 drug distribution networks working in areas like Reisterstown Road, Lynbrook, Bryant, Woodbrook, Orem, and Parkwood Avenues. It's a series of busts that has drawn a mixed reaction on the street.
I'm not saying I'm glad it happened, but you know something, it's not where you live, it's how you live. And we got kids and everything around here too, so you know something, it's accountability. That's all.
While the investigation even led police to an alleged supplier and 500 capsules of suspected heroin, no one is celebrating just yet. You see, in this neighborhood where heroin has been big business for so long, no one is convinced that there won't be other dealers who will move in quickly to fill the void.
Jeff, how long has heroin been? It's been there before your time. You go to Columbia, you go to everything else. It's just like a ball player. You get a great ball player, he gone, all of a sudden another one comes in on a positive note. But it is what it is. Kids can't find jobs, and this is their job.
Many people in the community were reluctant to talk about the arrest today, with 9 of the defendants named in the indictments still at large.
Hi, I'm Diana, and I'm a freshman here at the University of Maryland, and have lived in Maryland since I was 5. I consider Maryland my home. I have seen people around me struggle with drugs and addiction. To minimize this bias that I might have on the issue, I have tried to be open-minded and base my conclusions on credible research.
Hi, I'm Daniel, a sophomore economics major from Frederick, Maryland. Before doing our research, we wanted to identify our own biases so we could be as fair as possible moving forward. One bias we found was that we are on the outside looking in on this issue. None of us know what it's like to be addicted to heroin or have experienced living in the inner city of Baltimore, where we would have experienced this issue firsthand. One prior viewpoint we believe to be true due to media coverage was that this is a primarily black issue. We saw many clips on the internet of news stories covering black people overdosing from heroin. However, as you can see in this chart, about 70% of heroin deaths in Maryland are white people. We were partially right though, because Maryland loses the most African Americans due to heroin deaths each year compared to the other 49 states in the U.S.
Hi, I'm Darren. I'm a sophomore and have lived in Maryland for the past 20 years, my entire life. Baltimore is less than a 30-minute drive from my house in Columbia, so I'm there fairly often. Although I'd love to make this major city look good in the place I call home, that's simply not the reality of it. I know way too many people that have fallen victim to drug abuse and addiction, and I, along with many close friends, have lost people in life that unfortunately lost their battle with their addictions. Changes need to be made.
For one of our interviews, we interviewed a nurse at UMD's hospital in Baltimore who deals with drug use all the time. She requested to remain anonymous, so the voice in this interview is not hers. Would you consider drug abuse a primary issue of concern in Baltimore?
Yes, we get drug addicts all the time, especially in the emergency room. It's really common in the city compared to the country. It's a lot of heroin and cocaine abuse. Drugs are cheaper in the city because there are a lot more of them. Some of my patients literally have chunks of skin 12 inches long missing from their arms and legs because the drug use destroys skin tissue. The drug users love it, though, because it allows them easier access to veins.
In your experience, what are some of the factors that contribute to drug abuse?
Stress, lack of money, and family issues.
What age range do you see people abusing drugs?
Mostly mid-20s and 30s.
What resources do you see available to people in Baltimore struggling with addiction?
There are a lot of methadone clinics that people use. Methadone is a drug that gives the same high feeling as heroin. It's just safer, and there's no chance of the drug being laced with something, or a dirty needle. There's also the needle exchange program in Baltimore, where users can bring their dirty needles and swap them out for clean ones, preventing infections such as hepatitis and HIV. It's actually a van that drives around different parts of Baltimore and exchanges people's needles for them. Technically, I think users have to take a pamphlet on how they can get help with drug addiction before they can get clean needles. But some people have mixed feelings about these programs, especially the needle exchange, because in a way it is encouraging drug use since they're handing out clean needles. It also uses tax money, so that irritates a lot of people.
We sat down and spoke with the clinical director at the Baltimore site for Colmac Outpatient Recovery Centers. He has dedicated his life to working primarily with people struggling with substance abuse. Interestingly, he informed us that he sees abusers ranging from the age of 14 all the way to the elderly. This individual believes that due to its high incidence of death and other social costs, as well as its effect on a wide range of demographics, it is hard not to rank drug abuse near the top of the list of nationwide social issues.
Absolutely. It is directly linked to the extraordinarily high homicide rate. Baltimore is considered the heroin capital of the United States, making it a huge drug market unlike nearly all other major cities. It can lead to suicide, lost hours of work production, damaged interpersonal relationships, damaged physical bodies, high medical costs, etc. Well, there's lack of emotion regulation, desire to escape one's circumstances, genetic factors, including a predisposition to developing an addiction, which often runs in families, minimizing the effects substances have on a person, etc. In Baltimore specifically, not really, other than more of a word-of-mouth campaign highlighting the seriousness of the problem. However, the current health commissioner has made it a priority of hers. Narcan, which reverses the effects of an opioid overdose, is also more readily available. Well, we need more devotion to treatment and less to incarceration as a solution. Government can help create more recovery-related programs and help create an atmosphere of less stigma surrounding drug abuse.
The drug war has failed, but what's the alternative? Is there a way to provide help to those with drug problems while at the same time keeping communities and our children safe? The alternative is called harm reduction. The basic idea is to try to help people with drug problems rather than treat them like criminals. Does harm reduction work? Fortunately, we have a wonderful real-world example in Portugal, a country that decriminalized all drugs 10 years ago.
Portugal has actually decriminalized all drug use, and they did that as a response to a heroin epidemic in the country.
A huge amount of money that had gone to putting its citizens into cages was freed up, and it enabled the government to provide meaningful treatment to people who wanted it. And so addicts were able to turn into non-drug users, and usage rates went down.
In the last 10 years, they've been able to document a 50% reduction in heroin use.
My name is Brian Dolan. I'm a freshman here at the University of Maryland, and I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland. My dad worked in Baltimore all my life, basically, so I spent a lot of time in the city, and through him was able to make some interesting connections with people in Baltimore. One of them was Sergeant Robert Cherry, who was a homicide detective in the Baltimore Police Department who worked specifically with opioid-related deaths. I scheduled an interview with him to meet in Baltimore and maybe take a possible ride along in his cop car, see his beat, and see what he's looking at, the daily activities in Baltimore. But unfortunately, when one of his fellow comrades in the homicide unit was shot the other day, we had to delay the interview. I will be following up with him and getting the interview, but for now, we do not have it.